frozen ambition. The descent to Nova Frigis was nothing short of terrifying. Commander Olivia Frost watched through the viewport as the expedition vessel Endurance broke through the planet's upper atmosphere, buffeted by winds strong enough to tear apart ships twice its size. Ice crystals formed intricate patterns on the reinforced glass, spreading like frozen lightning despite the vessel's thermal countermeasures. "Inversion layer coming up in 30 seconds, announced pilot Dominic Reed, his hands dancing across the controls with practiced precision. "Everyone brace for turbulence." Olivia tightened her harness, glancing around the cabin at her team. 6 of Earth's finest, specialists chosen for their expertise, mental fortitude, and adaptability. They'd need every bit of those qualities to survive what awaited them below. "Atmospheric composition holding steady at the predicted values," reported Dr. Elias Thorne, their environmental specialist, eyes locked on his readings. "Temperature external sensors show minus 112 degrees Celsius. That's actually warmer than projected." "Oh, wonderful," muttered Naomi Torres, their engineering lead. "Only cold enough to freeze our blood solid in under a minute instead of 30 seconds. I feel so much better." The ship lurched violently as they hit the inversion layer, a place where warmer air trapped beneath colder air created atmospheric hell. For several heart-stopping moments, alarms blared throughout the cabin as the Endurance fought against forces trying to tear it apart. "Stabilizing," Dominic called out, his voice tense but controlled. "Landing site coming into visual range. Looks exactly as inhospitable as the probe suggested." Olivia leaned forward, taking in the vista below. Nova Frigis stretched out before them, a world locked in eternal winter. Jagged mountains of ice jutted from plains of snow that sparkled under the dim light of a distant sun. Winds carved sweeping patterns across the landscape, picking up crystal particles that created swirling, deadly halos around the peaks. Yet beneath this frozen hell lay the reason for their presence. Energy readings unlike anything previously recorded, promising resources that could transform humanity's future among the stars. "Remember, people," Olivia said firmly, "we have 90 days before the orbital window reopens for extraction. 90 days to establish base, locate the energy source, and determine its viability. Mission parameters are clear." "So is the body count projection," muttered Victor Laszlo, their security specialist. 4 out of 6 predicted casualties. I don't know about you all, but I plan to be in the surviving third." "That's a prediction based on standard human limitations," Olivia replied, her voice calm but steely. "We're anything but standard." What none of them knew was that they were being observed, not just by the automated systems of their own mission control back on Earth, but by eyes much more alien. Zephyr watched the human vessel descend from his cloaked observation post embedded in Nova Frigis's largest ice mountain. His compound eyes refracted the scene into thousands of identical images, each capturing the reckless determination of these fragile beings. "They have landed successfully," he communicated back to the Vexillian High Command. "As predicted, they aim to establish a permanent ground presence." The response came immediately, transmitted directly to his neural pathways. "Continue observation. Record all adaptation attempts. Anticipate failure within 14 planetary rotations." Zephyr clicked his mandibles in agreement. The Vexillians had been observing humanity's expansion for decades, studying their strengths and limitations. Nova Frigis represented a perfect natural laboratory, a planet so incredibly hostile that not even Vexillians, with their chitin-armored bodies and advanced technology, maintained permanent presence on its surface. These humans, with their soft, water-filled bodies and primitive technology, stood no chance. Yet they persisted in trying to tame environments far beyond their biological capabilities. It was fascinating, if ultimately futile. Zephyr settled in for his observation duty, calculating the exact timeline of their inevitable demise. The landing struts of the Endurance compressed as they touched down on the ice shelf, distributing the vessel's weight to prevent breaking through. Automatic anchors fired into the ice, securing the ship against winds that could potentially topple it. External conditions stabilized for deployment, announced Beckett Jackson, their meteorological expert, studying the readouts with cautious optimism. We have a 20-minute window before the next pressure front moves in. That's our cue. Olivia unstrapped herself and moved to the equipment bay. Suits on, systems triple-checked. We establish the habitat module first, then secure the perimeter. Naomi Torres was already pulling on her extreme environment suit, a marvel of engineering that would keep them alive in conditions that could kill in seconds. The habitat's thermal sinks need to be drilled at least 15 meters down to tap into what little geothermal gradient exists. That's priority one after securing the structure. Agreed, Olivia said, checking the seals on her own suit. Thorne, you're on atmospheric monitoring. Jackson, keep an eye on that weather system. Reed, maintain ship systems at ready status in case we need emergency extraction. Laszlo, Torres, you're with me on the ground team. The external air lock cycled, exposing them to Nova Frigis's full fury for the first time. The cold struck like a physical force, even through their insulated suits. The wind howled across the ice plain, carrying crystalline particles that plinked against their visors like tiny bullets. Move quickly, stay together, Olivia commanded through the comm system. Torres, begin habitat deployment. The next hours were a blur of precisely orchestrated movement. The habitat module, a revolutionary design combining inflatable structures with nanomaterial reinforcement, took shape on the ice plain. Thermal drills bored into the frozen surface, placing stabilizing anchors and heat exchange systems. By the time the sun, little more than a bright star from this distance, began to dip toward the horizon, they had established their beachhead. The habitat stood tall against the increasing winds, its external sensors already gathering data on their surroundings. Environmental systems nominal, Elias reported as they gathered in the central compartment, removing their helmets for the first time. We're maintaining internal temperature at 15 Celsius with 63% efficiency, better than projected. Olivia nodded, allowing herself a small smile. Good work, everyone. Phase 1 complete. Tomorrow we begin sensor deployment to triangulate the energy readings. I've been analyzing the preliminary data, Elias continued, pulling up a holographic display. The energy signature is unusual, not typical of standard geothermal patterns. It's almost rhythmic. Rhythmic, Victor frowned, like a pulse. More like a broadcast, Elias clarified, but that would imply. Don't say it, Naomi cut in. We're not jumping to alien technology on day one. Beckett laughed nervously. Why not? We're already on an alien planet. Might as well find alien toys while we're here. Focus, people, Olivia interrupted. Whether it's a natural phenomenon or something else, our job is to investigate and determine its potential. Let's stick to facts and data. As night fell over Nova Frigis, plunging temperatures even lower, the team settled into their first rest cycle. Outside, the winds increased to near hurricane force, testing the habitat's anchoring systems. Inside, environmental controls hummed steadily, creating a bubble of life in the middle of frozen desolation. None of them noticed the slight shimmer of a cloaked observer moving closer to study their structure, or the data being transmitted to a species that had already deemed them incapable of survival. 7 days into the mission, they faced their first major crisis. Commander, we have a problem, Dominic called over the comm as Olivia and her ground team were setting up the third sensor array 2 kilometers from base. Report, she replied, fighting to keep her footing as the wind pushed against her. The meteorological model just collapsed. There's a supercell storm forming directly over the western ridge, completely unpredicted by our simulations. Beckett says we have less than 40 minutes before it hits our position. Olivia looked toward the horizon where dark clouds were indeed gathering with unnatural speed. Understood. We're heading back. Prepare the habitat for extreme conditions. She turned to Victor and Naomi. Pack it up. We're moving out. But we're so close, Naomi protested, gesturing to the half-assembled sensor array. 10 more minutes and... The array won't matter if we're dead, Olivia cut her off. Move now. They raced back toward the habitat, fighting against increasingly violent winds. Ice particles whipped around them, reducing visibility to mere meters. The temperature, already dangerously low, plummeted further as the storm front approached. By the time they reached the habitat, the storm had transformed the landscape. Snow and ice particles swirled in blinding vortices, and the wind howled at speeds approaching 200 kilometers per hour. "Everyone inside," Olivia shouted as they approached the airlock. "Tor's status on the habitat integrity." "Anchors holding at 70% capacity," Naomi reported as they cycled through the airlock. "I've diverted additional power to the structural field generators, but this storm is twice as powerful as anything we prepared for." Inside the habitat, the situation wasn't much better. Displays showed the storm's fury increasing by the minute, sensors reporting conditions that shouldn't have been possible according to their models. "This isn't natural," Beckett insisted, reviewing the data. "The atmospheric dynamics don't support storm formation of this magnitude. It's like something triggered it." "Save the theories for when we're not about to be blown off the planet," Victor snapped. A violent shudder ran through the habitat as one of the anchors failed, setting off alarms throughout the structure. "Naomi, Victor, emergency reinforcement protocol," Olivia ordered. "Thorne, divert power from non-essential systems. Reed, prepare the ship for emergency shelter if the habitat fails." As they scrambled to secure their base against the impossible storm, none of them noticed the alien craft hovering above the maelstrom, its advanced technology both observing and subtly influencing the weather patterns below. Zephyr was impressed despite himself. 14 planetary rotations had passed, the time by which his superiors had predicted total mission failure for the humans, yet they persisted. They had not only survived the artificially enhanced storm, a test his commanders had authorized, but had adapted their equipment and protocols in its aftermath. The energy signature that had drawn them to Nova Frigis was now clearly identified, located beneath 3 kilometers of solid ice, and they were preparing to drill toward it. "The humans display unexpected resilience," he reported back to his command. "Their technological solutions, while primitive, show remarkable improvisation." "They remain doomed to failure," came the response. "The ice sheet contains pressure variances they cannot detect. Drilling will trigger catastrophic fracturing." Zephyr hesitated before his next transmission. "Should we not warn them? The data they seek could have scientific value to us as well." A long pause followed, unusual for the instantaneous Vexillian communication network. Finally, limited contact authorized. Assess their response. And so, as the humans prepared their drilling equipment on the 21st day of their expedition, they received their first indication they were not alone. "Commander, we're picking up a signal," Elias announced, staring at his console in disbelief. It appears to be directed specifically at us." Olivia joined him at the communications station. "Origin." "That's the strange part," Elias replied. "It's coming from less than a kilometer away, but there's nothing there according to our sensors." "Play it," Olivia ordered. A strange, clicking sound emerged from the speakers, followed by words in perfect, if oddly accented, English. "Humans of Expedition Vessel Endurance. Your drilling operation will result in your termination. The ice structure contains pressure anomalies beyond your sensing capabilities. Cease your activities and depart." Silence fell over the habitat's control room. "Is this someone's idea of a joke?" Victor finally asked, his hand moving instinctively to his sidearm. "Scan for any transmitters or human presence," Olivia ordered, maintaining her composure despite the shock. "Nothing human," Elias confirmed after a moment. "But I am detecting some unusual energy readings that our systems can't identify." Olivia pressed the transmit button. "This is Commander Olivia Frost of the Earth Coalition Expedition. Identify yourself and your purpose here." The response was immediate. "I am Observer Zephyr of the Vexillian Ecological Survey. I have been monitoring your activities since your arrival. Your species is not equipped to survive Nova Frigis, nor to safely extract what lies beneath its surface." Beckett looked pale. Aliens, actual aliens, monitoring us like we're some kind of science experiment. We are a science experiment, Naomi muttered. Olivia held up a hand for silence. Observer Zephyr, we appreciate your concern. Our mission is scientific in nature. We would welcome any data you could share about the pressure anomalies you mentioned. Data exchange is not authorized at this time, came the reply. The recommendation stands, cease operations and depart. Olivia muted the transmission and turned to her team. Options. We could take the warning at face value and adjust our drilling approach, Naomi suggested. If they're right about pressure anomalies, we might be able to detect them with modified sensor protocols. Or it could be a tactic to scare us off from whatever's down there, Victor countered. Something valuable enough that they don't want us to find it. Elias nodded thoughtfully. The energy readings have been consistent with some kind of technology rather than a natural resource. Perhaps they're protecting something. Olivia considered for a moment, then unmuted the transmission. Observer Zephyr, we will continue our mission as planned. We're willing to share any discoveries we make if that's of interest to you. The pause before the response was longer this time. Your persistence is noted. Be aware that your technology is insufficient for the challenges ahead. Your failure will be documented. The transmission ended. Well, that was encouraging, Dominic remarked dryly. It was actually, Olivia replied, surprising them. They could have sabotaged our equipment or directly interfered. Instead, they warned us. That suggests some level of scientific ethics, if nothing else. So we're continuing the drilling operation? Elias asked. Olivia nodded firmly. With modifications based on the warning, Naomi, recalibrate our sensors to look specifically for pressure differentials in the ice. Victor, prepare emergency protocols in case we need to evacuate quickly. Everyone else, standard operations. We came too far to turn back now. The drilling began 3 days later, after extensive sensor modifications and safety preparations. The massive thermal drill, designed specifically for Nova Frigis's extreme conditions, began its slow descent through the ice. Zephyr watched from his cloaked position, fascinated by the humans' determination. They had not fled as expected, but had instead adapted their approach based on his warning. Their modified sensors were now detecting some of the pressure anomalies his more advanced technology had identified, and they were adjusting their drilling path accordingly. The humans continued drilling despite warnings, he reported. However, they have modified their technology to account for some of the dangers. Probability of catastrophic failure now calculated at 63% rather than certainty. Unexpected came the reply. Continue observation. Permission granted to document survival techniques if they exceed expectations. The drill descended meter by meter, occasionally pausing as the team detected and navigated around dangerous pressure pockets in the ice. After 72 hours of continuous operation, they had reached nearly 2 kilometers depth. Energy readings are intensifying, Elias reported during the 4th day of drilling. Whatever's down there, we're getting close. Pressure anomaly detected directly ahead, Naomi warned. It's massive, spanning at least 500 meters horizontally. Can we go around it? Olivia asked, studying the holographic representation of the ice structure. Naomi shook her head. Not without adding weeks to the operation. We'd have to backtrack almost a kilometer. What about going through at a specific point? Victor suggested. Look here. The pressure readings are lower near the center. If we drill precisely and slowly, we might be able to relieve the pressure gradually. It was a risk, but time was running short. Their 90-day window was nearly half expired, and they needed to not only reach the energy source but study it before extraction became possible. Proceed with extreme caution, Olivia decided. Minimum drill speed, continuous pressure monitoring. At the first sign of instability, we abort. For 18 tense hours, they guided the drill through the pressure anomaly, venting small pockets of compressed gas that had formed within the ice over millennia. The habitat's sensors remained on high alert, ready to trigger emergency protocols at the slightest indication of danger. And then, just as they thought they had navigated the worst, disaster struck. Seismic activity, Beckett shouted as alarms blared throughout the habitat. Magnitude increasing rapidly. The drill, Naomi cried out. Something's happening at the drill site. The displays showed a catastrophic chain reaction. What they had thought was a navigable pressure pocket was actually an interconnected system spanning kilometers. As the drill penetrated the final barrier, the entire ice shelf began to fracture. Evacuation Protocol Alpha, Olivia commanded. Everyone to the ship now. They raced for their emergency gear as the habitat shuddered around them. Outside, the ice was splitting in massive fissures, releasing ancient gases and triggering minor explosions as different atmospheric components mixed. The drill team, Elias shouted over the chaos. They're still at the control station. Olivia made a split-second decision. Reed, get the ship ready for immediate departure. Laszlo, with me, we're getting our people. Against the howling wind and on increasingly unstable ice, Olivia and Victor fought their way toward the drilling control station 200 meters from the main habitat. Inside, 2 crew members were frantically trying to shut down the drill systems. Leave it, Olivia ordered as they burst in. The ice shelf is collapsing. We have minutes at most. They had barely made it halfway back to the ship when the ice beneath them gave way completely. With a deafening crack, the surface split open, creating a chasm that separated them from the Endurance. Jump, Olivia shouted as the gap widened. Victor and one of the drill technicians made it across, but Olivia and the second technician found themselves on a rapidly tilting ice floe, sliding toward the abyss that had opened beneath them. In that moment, as she scrambled for purchase on the slick ice, Olivia caught sight of something impossible, a shimmer in the air that solidified into a strange, insect-like being racing toward them with inhuman speed. The last thing she saw before the ice gave way completely was the alien reaching out with a multi-jointed limb. Then darkness took her as Nova Frigus reclaimed its surface, burying the mysteries they had sought to uncover beneath tons of shifting ice. Triumph in ice. Consciousness returned to Olivia Frost in fragments. First the sensation of cold, then a strange chittering sound, and finally the realization that she was no longer falling. Her eyes fluttered open to darkness punctuated by a soft blue bioluminescence that cast eerie shadows across a vast chamber of ice. Dr. Morgan is stabilizing, came an unfamiliar voice, human, not the alien chittering she'd heard before awakening. Commander, can you hear me? Olivia turned her head slowly, wincing at the pain that radiated from her neck. A face swam into view, Dr. Leon Morgan, the expedition's medical officer who had remained aboard the Endurance during the drilling operation. Where are we? Olivia managed, her voice a hoarse whisper. Approximately 3 kilometers beneath the surface, came another voice, this one decidedly not human. Observer Zephyr stepped into view, his compound eyes reflecting the blue light in thousands of fractured images. Your drill operation destabilized the ice shelf as predicted, but it also revealed something unexpected. Olivia struggled to sit up, taking in her surroundings with growing amazement. They were in an immense cavern carved from ice and some kind of crystalline material she couldn't identify. The walls pulsed with that same blue bioluminescence, creating patterns that seemed almost deliberate. The rest of my team, she asked urgently. Scattered, Dr. Morgan replied, helping her to stand. The ice collapse separated us. Technician Wei is here with us, the others. He hesitated. We don't know yet. Communication equipment was damaged in the collapse. I retrieved you and your medical officer when your vessel became trapped in the ice, Zephyr explained, mandibles clicking between words. The resonance cavern was the nearest safe location. Resonance cavern? Olivia repeated, taking an experimental step forward. Her legs were shaky but functional. Zephyr gestured with a multi-jointed limb toward the glowing patterns on the walls. This entire structure, it is not natural. Nova Frigus was not always an ice planet. What you see here was built by a civilization that existed before the climate shift. Dr. Morgan's eyes widened. The energy signature we detected. A power source still functioning after millennia, Zephyr confirmed. My species has observed it for centuries but lacked the authorization to investigate directly. Your drilling operation, while reckless, has provided an opportunity. Olivia's mind raced, processing the implications. You said the others are scattered. Are they alive? Unknown, Zephyr replied. But the subsurface network is extensive. If they survived the initial collapse, there is a possibility they found safety in other chambers. Technician Wei, who had been quietly examining their surroundings, spoke up. Commander, these patterns on the walls, they're not random. They look like circuit pathways or maybe some kind of data storage. Olivia studied the glowing lines more carefully. Wei was right. There was a distinctive organization to them, reminiscent of both circuit boards and written language. We need to find the others and figure out what we're dealing with, she decided. Zephyr, you said this is a network of caverns. Do you have any way to navigate it? The alien hesitated, compound eyes flickering with an unreadable emotion. I have limited mapping capabilities. However, my superiors are aware of the situation. They are coming. Something in his tone made Olivia's instincts flare. And that's a problem because the Vexillian High Command views this discovery as potentially significant to our technological advancement. They will secure it upon arrival. Meaning they'll take it for themselves and remove us from the equation, Dr. Morgan translated grimly. Zephyr's mandibles clicked rapidly, possibly the alien equivalent of discomfort. I am an observer, not a policymaker. However, your assessment is not inaccurate. Olivia exchanged glances with Morgan and Wei. Their situation had just become considerably more complicated. Lost beneath kilometers of ice, separated from their team, with limited supplies, and now facing potential conflict with an advanced alien species. How long do we have before your superiors arrive? She asked. Approximately 72 of your hours, Zephyr replied. Olivia nodded decisively. Then we have 3 days to find our people, understand what we've discovered, and figure out how to negotiate from a position of strength. Let's move. Meanwhile, 2 kilometers away through the labyrinthine ice tunnels, Victor Laszlo was leading what remained of his group through the glowing passages. Beside him, Naomi Torres worked frantically to modify a portable scanner using parts salvaged from their equipment. Anything? Victor asked, pausing at an intersection where 3 identical tunnels branched off in different directions. Naomi shook her head in frustration. The energy signature is everywhere. It's like the entire structure is powered somehow. I can't isolate specific readings to find the others. Behind them, Beckett Jackson and Elias Thorne examined the strange symbols etched into the ice. Since awakening in this underground maze after the collapse, they had been theorizing non-stop about the origins of the structure. These markings appear consistently at junctions, Elias noted, comparing photographs he'd taken at previous intersections. They could be navigational markers. Or warnings, Beckett added grimly. For all we know, we're wandering through the alien equivalent of abandoned hope, all ye who enter here. Victor ignored their speculation, focusing on the immediate problem. We need to find the commander and the others, then we need to find a way back to the surface. Assuming there still is a ship to go back to, Naomi pointed out. For all we know, the Endurance was swallowed in the collapse. Victor's jaw tightened. Their situation was precarious at best. They had limited supplies, no communication with the surface, and were trapped in an alien structure that defied explanation. Yet giving up wasn't an option. We keep moving, he decided, choosing the leftmost tunnel. These passages must connect somewhere. We follow the power conduits, they'll lead to a central location eventually. As they walked, the blue luminescence that had lit their way since waking pulsed with increasing intensity. The air, too, was changing, becoming warmer, more humid, carrying scents that didn't belong on an ice planet. Victor, Elias called out suddenly, "Stop, listen." They froze, straining their ears. At first, nothing but the soft hum of the energy flowing through the walls. Then, unmistakably, voices. Not human voices, but a rhythmic clicking and chittering that echoed through the ice. Hide, Victor whispered, pulling them into an alcove as the sounds grew louder. 3 alien figures moved past their hiding spot, their insectoid forms gliding smoothly across the ice. Unlike the blue light of the tunnels, these creatures emitted a faint orange glow from organs visible beneath their translucent exoskeletons. Vexillians, Naomi breathed once they had passed, just like the one that contacted us before the collapse. But these seem different, Elias observed. The coloration, the movement patterns, they're not the same species as our observer. Different caste, maybe, Beckett suggested, like specialized workers in an insect colony. Victor's mind was racing through tactical possibilities. They didn't seem to be searching. They were heading somewhere with purpose. I say we follow them carefully. The decision made, they slipped from their hiding place and began trailing the aliens at a distance, moving as quietly as possible through the glowing tunnels. In yet another section of the vast underground complex, Dominic Reed found himself in perhaps the strangest situation of all. Unlike the others, he had remained with the ship during the drilling catastrophe, attempting to maintain power systems as the ice shifted beneath them. When the surface finally gave way completely, the Endurance had plummeted into the abyss. But instead of being crushed, it had broken through into a massive cavern and come to rest on what appeared to be an ancient landing platform. Now, surrounded by technology both familiar and utterly alien, Dominic worked frantically to restore the ship's systems. The Endurance was damaged but not destroyed. If he could get it operational again, it might be their only ticket off this frozen hell. Power distribution reconfigured, he muttered to himself, bypassing damaged circuits with makeshift connections. Emergency systems online, communications still offline. A soft ping from one of the few functioning sensors caught his attention. Something was approaching the ship, multiple somethings moving fast. Dominic grabbed the only weapon available, a plasma torch used for repairs, and positioned himself near the partially open airlock. If whatever was coming intended harm, they'd find him ready. The first figure that appeared in the gap wasn't alien at all, but the missing drill technician who had been separated from Commander Frost during the collapse. "Reed," the technician gasped. "You're alive, the ship survived." "Barely," Dominic replied, lowering the torch with relief. "What happened to you? Where are the others?" "There's no time," the technician said urgently. "They're coming. I found something incredible, but they're after it too." "Who's coming?" "The aliens." Before the technician could answer, a blinding light flooded the chamber outside the ship. Silhouetted against it were the unmistakable forms of at least a dozen Vexillians, their exoskeletons gleaming with powered armor unlike anything Dominic had seen from their observer. "Get inside," Dominic ordered, pulling the technician through the airlock and sealing it behind them. "Tell me exactly what you found and who these new players are." 72 hours wasn't much time, but Olivia Frost had achieved the impossible with less. Guided by Zephyr, whose knowledge of the complex was limited but better than nothing, her small group had been systematically exploring the ancient structure. "These chambers appear to be research facilities," Zephyr explained as they entered a vast room filled with crystalline towers. "The civilization that built this, the architects, as my people call them, were masters of energy manipulation." Dr. Morgan was examining one of the towers with fascination. "These crystals are storing information somehow. Look at how the light patterns shift when I move near them." Wei had been working with salvaged equipment to try and translate the symbols they'd encountered throughout the complex. "I think I'm starting to understand some of this," he announced. "It's not a language exactly, more like a mathematical notation system. These specific patterns keep recurring around energy conduits." Olivia studied the holographic display Wei had created, showing the repeated symbols. "If you're right, this could help us activate or control some of the technology here." "A dangerous proposition," Zephyr cautioned. "The architect's technology has remained dormant for millennia. Activating it without understanding could have catastrophic consequences." "More catastrophic than being trapped underground when your superiors arrive to claim everything," Olivia countered. We need leverage, Zephyr, something that gives us a chance to negotiate rather than simply be eliminated as an inconvenience. The alien's compound eyes flickered in what Olivia had begun to recognize as distress. Your species' propensity for risk is difficult to comprehend. It's how we've survived, Olivia replied simply. When you can't overpower an obstacle, you go around it. When you can't go around it, you find a way to use it. A sudden tremor ran through the chamber, causing crystalline dust to drift down from the ceiling. What was that? Dr. Morgan asked, looking up warily. Seismic activity has been increasing since the collapse, Zephyr explained. The ancient systems are attempting to compensate for the structural damage, but the strain is significant. Olivia's expression hardened. Then we don't have time to be cautious. Focus on those energy regulation symbols. If this place is becoming unstable, we need to either find a way to stabilize it or find a way out, preferably both. As Wei returned to his translations with renewed urgency, Olivia pulled Zephyr aside. There's something you're not telling us about this place, isn't there? Something your superiors would kill to possess. The alien was silent for a long moment before responding. The architects did not merely harness energy. They created it. What your expedition detected from orbit was not a natural phenomenon or an ancient power source still functioning. It is a perpetual energy matrix, self-sustaining, self-regulating, and theoretically inexhaustible. Unlimited clean energy, Olivia breathed, the implications dawning on her. No wonder your people have been watching this planet for centuries. The technology has been deemed too dangerous to recover until now, Zephyr continued. The risk of destabilizing the planet was too great, but your drilling operation has changed the calculation. Now recovery will be attempted, regardless of consequences. A new voice suddenly broke into their conversation, familiar and wonderfully human. Then we'd better make sure that recovery happens on our terms. Olivia whirled around to find Victor Laszlo standing in the entrance to the chamber, with Naomi, Elias, and Beckett behind him. For the first time since the collapse, hope surged through her. "Report," she ordered, falling back on protocol to mask her emotional relief. "Ship status unknown," Victor replied crisply. "We've been navigating the tunnel network following energy conduits. We observed Vexillian military units approximately 6 hours ago, moving with purpose toward what appeared to be a central chamber." Naomi stepped forward, eyeing Zephyr with suspicion. "We've also discovered that this entire complex is designed around a central energy matrix that's been running for thousands of years. It's what kept parts of the underlying continent from freezing completely." "We know," Olivia replied. "Our alien friend has been somewhat more forthcoming since the collapse. His superiors are coming to claim the technology and remove any complications." "Like us," Elias noted grimly. "We have less than 48 hours before they arrive in force," Olivia continued. "We need to find Dominic and the ship, if they survived, and we need to understand enough of this technology to give us a bargaining position." Beckett Jackson, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. "I think I might have a solution to both problems. Before we found you, we discovered something interesting. A map of the complex etched into one of the walls. It showed a central chamber large enough to house a vessel with direct access to the surface." "A landing bay," Naomi clarified. "If the Endurance survived the collapse, there's a good chance it ended up there." Hope flickered in Olivia's chest. "Can you lead us there?" Beckett nodded confidently. "I memorized the route. It's complex, but I can get us there." "Then we move now," Olivia decided. "Wei, bring everything you've translated. We'll continue working as we travel." As they prepared to depart, Zephyr clicked his mandibles anxiously. "Commander Frost, I must inform you that accompanying you further conflicts with my directives. I was instructed to observe, not to assist." Olivia studied the alien carefully. Throughout their ordeal, Zephyr had shown signs of internal conflict, warning them despite orders not to interfere, saving her and Dr. Morgan when he could have left them to die. "Then consider this more observation," she suggested. "You were assigned to study human adaptability in extreme conditions. What could be more informative than watching us attempt to survive this situation? The alien's compound eyes flickered in what might have been amusement. Your capacity for rationalization is remarkable. Very well, I will continue to observe. The journey through the complex was arduous. Twice they had to detour around collapsed sections where the ice was still shifting, and once they narrowly avoided a patrol of Vexillian military units. Throughout it all, Wei continued working on translations while Naomi and Elias analyzed the technology they encountered. These conduits, Naomi explained as they rested briefly in a small antechamber. They're not just carrying energy, they're purifying it somehow. The radiation signatures are unlike anything I've ever seen, completely clean. And the interface systems are responsive to thought patterns, Elias added, demonstrating how a nearby console activated when he focused his attention on it. It's as if the entire complex is designed to be operated through some form of telepathic connection. Which explains why it's been running on automatic for millennia, Beckett concluded. It doesn't need maintenance because it's a self-correcting system. It thinks for itself. Zephyr, who had been listening intently, clicked his mandibles in agreement. The architects were believed to possess heightened neural capabilities. Many of the artifacts my people have recovered from their outposts respond to brainwave patterns. So we're inside essentially a giant thinking machine, Victor summarized. Wonderful, as if alien military units weren't enough to worry about. They continued onward, Beckett confidently leading them through the labyrinthine passages. After several hours, the tunnels began to widen, and the blue luminescence gave way to a brighter, more natural light ahead. We're approaching the central chamber, Beckett announced. If I'm right, the landing bay should be just ahead. They emerged onto a walkway overlooking an enormous cavern, easily a kilometer across and half as high. In the center, on what was clearly an artificial platform, sat the Endurance, damaged but intact. They made it, Olivia breathed in relief. But their joy was short-lived. Surrounding the ship were dozens of Vexillian military units, their armored exoskeletons gleaming in the light emitted by massive crystalline structures that lined the walls of the cavern. They've secured the ship, Victor observed grimly, and from the looks of it, they're trying to access its systems. Zephyr studied the scene below with obvious concern. Those are Vexillian elite guards. They answer directly to the High Command. Their presence indicates this situation has been deemed of highest priority. Can we get past them to reach the ship? Olivia asked. Victor shook his head. Not with our current resources. We're outnumbered and outgunned. Wei, who had continued his translations even as they observed the situation below, suddenly grabbed Olivia's arm with excitement. Commander, I've figured it out. The symbols near the energy conduits. They're not just notation, they're commands. This entire facility responds to specific thought patterns accompanied by these visual triggers. Meaning what exactly? Olivia asked. Meaning we might be able to control the facility's systems, Wei explained, including the defense mechanisms that have kept it protected for thousands of years. Naomi caught on immediately. If we can activate those defenses, we could level the playing field, Olivia finished. What do you need? Access to a primary control node, Wei replied. And based on what we've seen, I'd bet there's one in this chamber, probably near those major crystal formations. Olivia studied the cavern layout, noting the walkways that circled the perimeter. There, she pointed to a raised platform on the far side, where several crystalline columns converged. That looks like a control center of some kind. Getting there without being seen will be nearly impossible, Victor cautioned. Not necessarily, Zephyr interjected. The maintenance tunnels used by the facility's automated systems run behind these walls. They would provide access to most areas, including that platform. Everyone stared at the alien in surprise. You never mentioned these tunnels before, Naomi accused. You never asked, Zephyr replied simply, and until now they served no tactical purpose. Olivia made a quick decision. Show us. Wei, bring your translation notes. Everyone else prepare for potential conflict. If we can reach that control center, we might have a chance to turn this situation around. Dominic Reed watched from the bridge of the Endurance as the alien soldiers attempted to breach the ship's systems. So far, the emergency protocols had held. The aliens couldn't access the main computer or control interfaces, but it was only a matter of time before they found a way in. Beside him, the drill technician was working frantically on a makeshift device cobbled together from ship components, and something they'd found in the ancient facility. "Almost got it," the technician muttered. "If this works, it should create a feedback pulse through their neural interfaces. Not enough to kill, but it might disorient them long enough for us to make a move." "And if it doesn't work?" Dominic asked. The technician managed a grim smile. "Then we'll have revealed our position and pissed off a bunch of technologically superior aliens. So, no pressure." A sudden commotion outside drew their attention. The Vexillian soldiers had stopped their attempts to breach the ship and were now looking toward something on the far side of the cavern. "What are they seeing?" Dominic wondered, adjusting the external cameras. The answer came in the form of a massive power surge that rippled through the crystalline structures lining the cavern walls. Blue energy cascaded from conduit to conduit, growing in intensity until the entire chamber was bathed in pulsating light. "Someone's activated the primary systems," the technician realized with awe. "They've figured out how to interface with the architect's technology." On the far platform, barely visible through the energy discharges, Dominic could make out several human figures, and leading them, Commander Olivia Frost. Wei's hands trembled as he placed them on the crystalline interface, mentally projecting the patterns he had decoded from the ancient symbols. Around him, the rest of the team maintained a defensive perimeter while Zephyr provided guidance. "Your neural patterns must align precisely with the geometric forms," the alien instructed. "The facility is designed to respond only to authorized thought structures." "No pressure," Wei muttered, closing his eyes and concentrating. For several heart-stopping moments, nothing happened. Then, with a surge of energy that made his hair stand on end, the entire chamber came alive with dancing lights. The crystalline columns pulsed in synchrony, and displays of incomprehensible information materialized in the air around them. "It's working," Wei exclaimed. "I've got access to the primary systems." Olivia stepped forward, eyes fixed on the Vexillian soldiers now moving rapidly toward their position. "Defense systems, Wei. Find them now." Wei's fingers danced across interfaces only he could fully perceive, following patterns that seemed to materialize in his mind as he worked. "There's something here." Not weapons exactly, but containment fields. The facility used them to regulate energy flow and prevent unauthorized access. "Can you activate them around the Vexillians?" Olivia pressed urgently. Wei nodded, his expression intense with concentration. "Targeting now." Across the chamber, shimmering fields of energy suddenly erupted from the floor, encapsulating groups of Vexillian soldiers in translucent bubbles. Their weapons fired uselessly against the barriers, energy blasts dissipating upon contact. "It won't hold them forever," Wei warned. "The system recognizes them as partially authorized users, probably because of their neural technology's similarity to the architects." "It doesn't need to hold forever," Olivia replied. "Just long enough for us to reach the ship." With most of the Vexillians temporarily contained, they made their way down to the cavern floor, racing toward the Endurance. They had nearly reached it when the main entrance to the chamber slid open, revealing another group of aliens, these clearly of higher rank, judging by their more elaborate armor and the deference shown by the few uncontained soldiers. "High Command representatives," Zephyr confirmed, his voice tight with tension. "They have arrived earlier than anticipated." The lead Vexillian stepped forward, its armor gleaming with embedded technology far more advanced than anything they had seen so far. When it spoke, its voice carried easily across the cavern, translated into perfect English. "Humans of Earth vessel Endurance, you have interfered with a Vexillian research operation and accessed technology beyond your comprehension. Surrender immediately, and you will be permitted to leave this planet alive." Olivia stopped, motioning for the others to do the same. "We discovered this facility during a legitimate scientific expedition," she called back. "We've harmed no one and taken nothing. The technology here doesn't belong to the Vexillians any more than it belongs to humans." The alien commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Possession, Commander Frost, is the only law that matters between species. Your primitive understanding of rights and ownership is irrelevant here." "How does he know your name?" Victor whispered. "They've been monitoring us since we landed," Olivia replied quietly, "probably through Zephyr's reports." The Vexillian commander continued, "We have studied your species for decades. You are resourceful, adaptable, and surprisingly durable. But you are also reckless, short-sighted, and technologically inferior. The Architect's legacy is not for such as you." During this exchange, Wei had continued working with the facility's systems through a portable interface he'd managed to link with. Now he leaned close to Olivia. "Commander, I've found something. The facility has a central consciousness, a kind of AI that's been dormant for millennia, if I can fully activate it." "Do it," Olivia decided immediately. As Wei worked, Olivia kept the alien commander talking. "If we're so inferior, how is it that we managed to activate systems your people have been studying for centuries without success? Perhaps the architects had different criteria for advanced than you do." The commander's compound eyes flickered with what might have been anger. "A fortunate accident, nothing more. The architect's technology responds to neural patterns that your primitive brains happen to mimic. A cosmic coincidence, not evidence of worthiness." "Commander," Wei whispered urgently, "it's ready, but the AI is asking for a primary neural link, a designated interface. Someone has to connect directly with the system." "What are the risks?" Olivia asked. Wei hesitated. "Unknown. This technology wasn't designed for human minds. The neural load could be significant." Before Olivia could volunteer, Zephyr stepped forward. "I will do it." Everyone stared at the alien in shock. "Why would you help us?" Naomi demanded suspiciously. "Because you have proven my assumptions wrong," Zephyr replied simply. "I was sent to document your failure. Instead, I have witnessed your persistence, your adaptability, your willingness to cooperate even across species boundaries. These are qualities my own people once valued, before ambition overtook wisdom." The Vexillian commander, growing impatient with their whispered conference, barked an order. The uncontained soldiers began advancing, weapons raised. "Make your decision now, humans. Surrender or be eliminated." Olivia looked at Zephyr, understanding passing between them without words. She nodded once, then turned back to the commander. "We choose a third option," she announced. "Cooperation." At that moment, Zephyr placed his multi-jointed appendages on the neural interface Wei had prepared. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Every crystalline structure in the chamber blazed with blinding light, and a wave of energy radiated outward from the central platform where the ship rested. The advancing soldiers froze in place, their weapons deactivating as the facility's systems overrode their technology. Even the commander's elaborate armor dimmed, its advanced systems temporarily neutralized. Through their neural link, Zephyr addressed not just those present, but seemingly the entire Vexillian contingent on Nova Frigus, his thoughts amplified and translated by the facility. The architects did not build this place to be a weapon or a prize of conquest. They built it as a gift, a self-sustaining energy source meant to be shared by those who proved themselves worthy through cooperation, not domination. As Zephyr spoke, holographic displays materialized throughout the chamber, showing images of the long-vanished architects, beings of pure energy that had once inhabited physical forms similar to both humans and Vexillians. They seeded many worlds with their technology, waiting for species to evolve that would rediscover it and use it wisely, not to hoard or conquer, but to grow and share. The Vexillian commander, though stripped of technological advantage, stood defiant. "This changes nothing. The High Command will never permit such technology to fall into undeveloped hands." "Perhaps," Zephyr acknowledged, but they will be forced to reconsider when they learn what the architects truly built here. Through their linked consciousness, the facility revealed its final secret, not just an energy source, but a communication node connected to similar installations across the galaxy. The architects hadn't vanished. They had evolved, leaving behind the means for worthy species to eventually join them. The choice is not yours alone to make, Zephyr continued, addressing his commander. The facility has recognized both humans and Vexillians as potential inheritors. Neither can claim it exclusively without losing access entirely. A tremor ran through the chamber, stronger than previous ones and lasting longer. "What's happening?" Olivia asked as crystalline dust rained down from above. "The facility is destabilizing," Wei reported urgently, checking his readings. "The power surge from the full activation is more than the damaged structure can handle." Beckett pointed to the massive cracks now appearing in the ice walls. "We need to evacuate now. This whole place could collapse." Zephyr, still connected to the facility's consciousness, conveyed one final message before breaking the link. "The architects offer a choice: cooperate or lose everything. The facility will seal itself once more, burying the technology until worthy successors return." The Vexillian commander, seeing the severity of the situation, made a rapid calculation. "A temporary alliance," he declared, "until we reach the surface." Olivia nodded sharply. "Agreed, everyone to the ship." The evacuation was chaotic but coordinated. As chunks of ice crashed down around them, humans and Vexillians alike raced toward the Endurance, setting aside suspicion and hostility in the face of immediate danger. Dominic had the engines already powered up when they arrived, the ship's systems responding to emergency protocols. "Structural integrity at 62%, he reported as they piled aboard. "It'll be tight, but we should make it." "What about the vertical shaft?" Naomi asked. "The ice collapse sealed our entry point." The Vexillian commander, now aboard with a small contingent of his forces, interfaced directly with one of their devices. "The facility's final protocols include an emergency ascent tunnel. It is opening now." Sure enough, the ceiling of the chamber was retracting, revealing a massive shaft that led straight up to the surface, temporarily stabilized by the same energy fields that had contained the soldiers earlier. "Everyone secure for vertical ascent," Olivia ordered, strapping herself into the command chair. "Dominic, give us everything the engines have got. We won't get a second chance at this." The Endurance lifted off from the platform, thrusters straining against the ship's weight. As they rose through the emergency shaft, the chamber below them began to collapse completely, the ancient structure sealing itself as Zephyr had predicted. The ascent seemed to take forever, the ship's damaged hull groaning under the strain. Ice continued to fall around them, occasionally striking the vessel with bone-jarring impacts. But the engines held, and the emergency shaft remained stable just long enough. When they finally broke through to the surface, emerging into the howling winds and bitter cold of Nova Frigis, a collective sigh of relief passed through everyone aboard, human and Vexillian alike. "Navigation systems online," Dominic reported, "plotting course to rendezvous with the orbital extraction point." Olivia turned to the Vexillian commander. "Our agreement stands. Both our peoples will report this discovery and recommend a joint research initiative." The alien's compound eyes studied her for a long moment before he responded. "The High Command will not be pleased, but they cannot ignore the evidence we have gathered, nor the fact that the technology responded more readily to humans than to us. A joint initiative is logical." Zephyr, who had been strangely quiet since breaking his connection with the facility, finally spoke. "The architects judged worthiness not by technological advancement, but by adaptability, cooperation, and persistence. Perhaps humans possess more of these qualities than we recognized." As the Endurance climbed through Nova Frigis's atmosphere, leaving the ice planet behind, Olivia gazed back at the frozen wasteland that had nearly claimed their lives. Beneath that hostile surface lay secrets that could transform the future of both their species, secrets that would have remained buried if not for human persistence and Vexillian wisdom finally working in concert. Set course for home, she ordered, a small smile forming on her lips. We've got quite a story to tell. Beside her, Zephyr clicked his mandibles in what she now recognized as the alien equivalent of laughter. Indeed, Commander Frost, one that will change the relationship between our peoples forever. As the stars emerged from the thinning atmosphere, Olivia reflected on the journey that had brought them here. They had come seeking energy resources and scientific discovery. They were returning with something far more valuable, the beginning of an interspecies alliance, and the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe's grand design. Nova Frigis had tested them beyond endurance, exactly as the architects had intended. And in that crucible of ice and isolation, both humans and Vexillians had discovered strength they hadn't known they possessed, not in domination or technology, but in the simple, powerful act of working together against impossible odds.